Today, the Arizona Department of Health Services announced that there have been more than 16,500 cases of the coronavirus and more than 800 deaths in our state. And as our nation mourns fallen veterans and remembers their sacrifice, many of us are changing how we recognize Memorial Day. In one of the communities hit hardest by the coronavirus, remembrance continues with some restrictions. But is it enough? Team 12's Josh Sanders has the story.
Everybody is here, 60 and older.
At Sunland Village East in Mesa Monday afternoon, residents in the 55-plus community sitting down and enjoying each other's company after a round of golf on the outside patio of Fat Willie's family sports grill.
There are spouses that are sitting next to each other here celebrating. We have veterans here.
But one neighbor who wishes to remain anonymous is concerned with what they say is a lack of safety. According to the Arizona Department of Public Health, there are 90 confirmed positive COVID-19 cases within the 85209 zip code. The virus has disproportionately impacted people aged 55 and older, with more than 5,800 positive cases and 700 deaths across the state. Restaurant manager Brittany Kafka spoke to 12 News but would not go on camera. She says it's up to her staff if they want to wear a mask or protective gear, and that outside tables seat no more than 10 customers and are 6 feet apart.
At least the tables were reasonably far apart. They're all in one room. But there were a lot of people at each table.
Dr. Will Humble says the number of people could be problematic, but with an older community, many of the customers could be self-isolating together, which could reduce the chances of them contracting the virus.
They're careful about their other contacts. If they don't have high-risk occupations outside, then that's at least they're mitigating some of the risk.
Dr. Humble says even though there are a large number of cases in the Sunland Village zip code, those cases could be coming from assisted living facilities or skilled nursing homes in the area. We're in downtown Phoenix. Josh Sanders, 12 News.